What's up, everybody? D-Man. Do I have a really light voice today? What's going on? What's up, everybody? D-Man back. Welcome back to a brand new video, and today this video is a special request from Patreon supporter Aknogoji. Aknogoji has been incredibly patient with me through the process of making this review, so big thank you to him. Merry Christmas to those of you out there who celebrate Christmas, and to those of you who don't, happy holidays. Unless you're just tuning in on some random day and watching this, in which case, just happy day, I guess. Hope it's a good one. Today we are going to be reviewing 1997's Princess Mononoke. Princess Mononoke, released in 1997, is one of the tentpole movies in the expansive catalog of revered Japanese animated filmmaker Hayao Miyazaki. This film is one of the many Miyazaki Studio Ghibli collaborations and is widely considered one of the best animated films ever made. Reviewing Princess Mononoke seemed like an enormous task. I was overwhelmed trying to figure out a way to do this review. Not because the movie is so long or because it's part of a massive franchise or anything, but because the film is incredibly dense and thoughtful, and to get a full understanding and appreciation for it takes time. The film itself is packed with historical and mythological references, complex themes and allegories, and rich messages. For a while, I considered talking about all that in this video, but there are people far more qualified than myself to break all this stuff down for you, and there are already some incredible videos made on these topics. So while I may be touching upon some of this stuff, I won't be diving too deep into any of it. Instead, I'll stick mostly to the film as a film and what my thoughts on it are. Spoilers for Princess Mononoke will follow, so I highly recommend people go check this movie out. It's free on HBO Max, or can be rented as a Blu-ray or bought in other places. And the Blu-ray, which is what we'll be reviewing, has a wonderful remaster of the film with really vibrant colors. It's a lot richer than what's on HBO Max. It's also got both the Japanese original and a wonderfully produced English dub. My first introduction to Princess Mononoke came all the way back in October 2016 when a YouTuber called GFanWorks posted a video called Shin Godzilla Music Arrangement, which featured a mashup song called Godzilla vs. Princess Mononoke. After I listened to the mashup, I fell in love with the melody. I kept listening to that track on repeat over and over and over again. Actually, I posted a video way back in the day trying to recreate it with the actual songs, if you remember that. I don't know. I was fascinated by the image of a girl riding a white wolf through a forest of little ghost-like creatures. And from this moment, I was interested in seeing the film. But instead of seek it out, I instead opted to just listen to the soundtrack. And there I would listen to the title credits song over and over and over again. And that was as far as my search would go for many years. As a freshman in college, we watched Spirited Away for one of my classes. Spirited Away features a more traditional Ghibli art style. It's the style that us normies are familiar with from all those Fathom Events Studio Ghibli trailers that always play in front of movies, featuring clips from My Neighbor Totoro. I absolutely loved that movie, so I really wanted to see more Miyazaki films, which is why naturally I checked my watch list to make sure that Princess Mononoke is still on it, and then did nothing about it. I just kind of moved on with the passive plan to get to it at some point. And Aknogoji's request was finally the push that I needed to check this movie out. Going into it, I only knew two things. Number one, the soundtrack was going to be amazing. And number two, the main character was going to take part in a massive war, where peace would be brought to the land, but only as a result of his death. I heard that info in one of my classes that was held in spring 2020, right before everything shut down. It was a presentation I had completely forgotten about until the film started, and then I went, oh no, this guy's gonna die? I have to watch the whole movie knowing that this guy's gonna die. The person giving that presentation declared Mononoke as the darkest and most adult film Miyazaki has ever made. And considering this is only the second Miyazaki film I've seen, I suppose I agree with him. The film starts out by letting us know we are in an ancient forest where the spirits of nature dwell. The first thing I noticed, aside from the brilliant landscapes and astounding art style, was Joe Hisaishi's unforgettable score. My favorite track in the entire film swells to a crescendo right as we hit an amazing title card, but not before we glimpse a nasty, oozing mess of worms and blood. This was my first indication this film was not going to be as made for kids as I had originally believed. We enter the story with Prince Ashitaka of the Emishi village village, riding into town on his red elk Yakul. Ashitaka is met by Kaya, his sister, who warns him that things are going wrong. Ashitaka climbs a guard tower where he spots a demon god sprinting out of the woods to terrorize the village. The design of this horrible worm-infested boar that transformed into a Tategami is so unique that it sets the standard for the whole film to come. This world is one of the most developed and rich I have ever seen. Every single character, from the old man in the tower to Lady Eboshi, all feel as though they have lived entire lives before the film started. The attention to detail is the most astounding part of this film. Ashitaka follows the demon back to his village, where he eventually is able to strike it down with a headshot from his trusty bow, but only after the demon has latched itself onto Ashitaka's arm, infesting him with its curse. The way the demon moves is so fluid and disgusting, it is yet another insanely impressive aspect to this film. Rather than point out how every single frame of this movie is nearly perfect and how the animation represents the peak of its craft, I'll just use this introductory scene as an example for the rest of the film to come, and I'll only point out some of my favorite details from here on. The village oracle comes over to pray the demon a peaceful death despite its acts of aggression. This small moment says so much about the Emishi people and helps to justify who Ashitaka is for the rest of the story. As the boar dies, he curses the humans and then melts to bones. At first I assumed this demon could only speak because it was cursed, so you can imagine my surprise when later in the movie, random animals just start talking. The oracle takes Ashitaka into a council room where he reveals his cursed arm to the village elders. He is told that he's been cursed with the same thing that turned the boar into a monster and will die if he does not travel to the west to meet his fate. He is given a metal ball that was found deep within the boar's body that caused its death and subsequent mutation into a monster, and told that in order to find the cure, he must discover what caused this all in the first place. The Emishi all mourn the loss of their prince as Ashitaka is forced to cut his bun off and abandon his tribe by law. A beautiful song starts playing as Ashitaka rides off into the unknown. He says goodbye to Kaya and is gifted her jewel dagger. Then he becomes a lone traveler, riding off over vast landscapes as a quiet, lonely protagonist. I am always a massive fan of quiet, lonely protagonists and people making their way across massive, beautiful landscapes. The music is so powerful and accompanies the magnificent visuals so well, it reminds me of something that should be taught in schools. Like Fantasia. I don't know if that's a common thing. Was it just my elementary school that taught Fantasia, or is that like a national standard? I have no idea, actually. Well, anyways, my elementary school taught us Fantasia as a very important film that uses music. I think this is like equal quality. I don't know if that's a controversial thing to say, but I'm going to say it. Do people like Fantasia? I don't know. I never really watched it since elementary school, so I don't know. A quick shot of Ashitaka crossing a river in his underwear had me worried this film would stoop to the levels of a lot of the other anime I've been exposed to, but fortunately, this film remains elevated and only includes this moment to be true to reality rather than to explore some uncomfortable themes of adolescent sexuality. This film is one of the most tasteful and highbrow films I have ever reviewed on this channel. As Ashitaka travels, he crosses past a village that is being raided by samurai, indicating the world is much larger than we realize and things have been in motion for far before the story started. A few of the samurai spot Ashitaka and attack him, leading to an epic fight scene. And oh my god, Ashitaka just shot that guy's arm off. Amazing. That's right. Ashitaka's curse gives him the power of a demon and lets him shoot people's heads off with a single arrow. I would also like to take a moment in this scene to address this film's incredible sound design. Every slash, swoosh, shing, and thing in this movie sounds incredible. This film has some of the best Foley and sound mixing I have ever heard in my life. It is so powerful and unique. Every different noise is so distinct that it creates a mood for this film that is totally its own. Ashitaka tends to his wounds and then continues to a small village where he is greeted by Jiko Bo, who helps him out after there is some confusion caused by Ashitaka's attempt to pay for some rice and gold. This scene does so much to demonstrate the powers of wealth, social disconnect, and depth of character at play. For Ashitaka, this gold means nothing, but not in an elitist kind of way, in the way of someone who is more at peace with the world and beyond this type of social construct. But for the people of this village, it's worth killing over. Meanwhile, Jiko has more wisdom and other resources than to need it. It's going to be really hard for me not to point out every single little detail like this as the film goes on, but I'll try and tone it down from here so that we can keep moving. Ashitaka and Jiko wind up in a cave for the night. Jiko tells Ashitaka about the wars and poverty that lie beyond and points him in the right direction for where he should go next. He tells Ashitaka of a forest protected by the deer god and tells him that this beast might be of some help to him. As with every character in this movie, Jiko's design is so powerful and does so much for him, and the contrast in colors between Ashitaka's blue and his red speak to their dynamic later in the film, and the design is so distinct. The large wooden sandals he wears wears to get around on and give him height are unlike anything else any other character in this film has. Everyone feels like they are their own person and really exist within the real world. Miyazaki's appreciation for life is on full display in this film. The next morning, Ashitaka sets out on his own, leaving Jiko in his sleep. This is where I thought I had an idea of where the film was going. I thought it was going to be a series of vignettes strung together by Ashitaka's travels, and I was very excited about that. Well, I thought that his dynamic with Jiko was so strong in the scenes they had together and wouldn't have minded the two being buddies on an adventure as the film goes on. I was excited for Ashitaka to interact with new characters and travel through different villages as the film went on, seeing new lands and worlds as he goes on this adventure all by himself. And I was really hoping that every character we met along the way on our journey never returned. They all hint at a larger world and broader story happening outside the one we're watching, but we never let that get in the way of Ashitaka's quest. While Princess Mononoke ultimately goes in a very different direction with this idea, some of these themes are present within the story. I don't think either direction the film could have gone was better than the other, but I'm happy for what we got. We catch up with the caravan heading up a mountain with oxen. They are attacked by giant mythical wolves led by Princess Mononoke. They defend themselves using fire lances at the command of Lady Eboshi. The colors are so vibrant it makes the fight really exciting. The pups are scared off only for an enormous two-tailed wolf Moro to attack and do some real damage. Moro is shot twice and then launched off a cliff by Lady Eboshi, who reassures her men that the wolves are immortal and will be back. At the bottom of the cliff, Ashitaka stops near a river where he rescues two survivors from the wolf attack. As he is dragging them to safety, he spots Moro being aided by Princess Mononoke and her pups. The princess aids the enormous wolf by slurping out her infected blood. A chime rings out that will become a familiar calling card for the princess. Ashitaka, being the pure-hearted man he is, jumps on the rock and announces himself to the princess, mistaking them for the forest spirits he's looking for. The princess then disappears into the woods with her wolves. Ashitaka and the survivors spot Kodama, which are tiny forest spirits that represent the health of the forest. These little guys are full of character and personality and lead the trio to the forest of the deer god. In addition to the adorable character designs, the way that Kodama move and sound is what makes them the icons they are. In the forest, Ashitaka spots the deer god in golden silhouette for the first time. After some rest, Ashitaka escorts the wounded men to the ironworks. This industrial town represents everything the deer god's forest is not. It's filled with people and technical progress. It looks dreary and stinky and seems as though it sucks the life out of the area around it. But at the same time, it looks peaceful and habitable. The wounded men are greeted by their people, but Ashitaka is met with some resistance from Gonza. Just then, Toki rushes in to greet her husband Kuroku in an abrasive and dominant way, playing up the dynamic we will see with all the women in Irontown to come. Lady Eboshi then appears and asks for a meeting with Ashitaka in Irontown. At dinner, while all the women fawn over Ashitaka, the men explain to him how Eboshi buys women who are sold into slavery or who are selling their bodies and then gives them refuge and jobs, which is why they are all so fiercely independent and go against traditional gender norms so heavily. Eboshi is talked up as someone to worship, a leader among them. One of my favorite little details during this scene is one man pointing out to an old man that he has some rice on his face. It's little details like this that don't advance the plot or do anything to serve as the story, but do so much to build the world and make it seem real. Ashitaka is then told of the legend of Nago, the boar god protecting the nearby forest that Irontown was chopping down. Nago had a reputation for attacking and killing humans, leading his army into battle. He was invincible to normal arrows, and it took Lady Eboshi coming in with her muskets and steel bullets to finally burn the forest down and deliver the killing blow to Nago. Ashitaka realizes this was the cursed boar and that he was cursed because he died with hatred, the same hatred living within Ashitaka, and anytime he gives into it, it spreads faster. Ashitaka meets with Eboshi and reveals his curse to her, explaining that she is to blame. He then tells her that he must see with eyes unclouded to find a cure. In response, she takes Ashitaka to her garden to reveal that in addition to buying slaves, she is also protecting a leper colony. That's why she needs the forest to be destroyed. She needs their resources to expand her influence and continue saving people. Ashitaka isn't sold, his arm attempting to kill her, but he stops himself and remains true to his mission. Lady Eboshi explains to Ashitaka that she wishes to kill the deer god because without him, the forests and animals would grow stupid and primitive, making it easier for the humans to take over. She says this will free Princess Mononoke and make her human again, and tells Ashitaka that the blood of the deer god is rumored to cure curses, and that maybe Ashitaka needs them to kill it to be saved. As we'll find out, she's not wrong. Ashitaka continues to weigh his options, choosing to learn about the new society he is now at odds with, rather than fighting them. He goes to the Iron Bellows and greets the woman there. Toki lets him have a turn stoking the flames, and his superhuman strength is demonstrated. Ashitaka asks the women if they are happy and for them to share their experiences with him. Meanwhile, Princess Mononoke and her glowing-eyed animal companions plan an attack on Irontown. Town. In a cut to silence, Ashitaka senses her arrival and the attack begins. The attack is dynamic and rapid. Once again, the sound design takes center stage for one of the most auditorily pleasing sequences in cinema history. Ashitaka attempts to make peace with the princess and winds up intervening in the town's attempts to kill her. The people of Irontown gain the upper hand and Eboshi warns them to be careful. A wolf's severed head can still bite, in a lovely bit of foreshadowing. I love the way the princess lands with almost no sound, showing she is somehow more powerful than if she landed with an epic crash. This technique is used a few times in this film. Eventually, Ashitaka uses his super strength to tear out a huge panel of roof and save Mononoke. While the princess and Lady Eboshi fight in a one-on-one, Ashitaka gives in to his hatred, the score swelling as he does so. Ashitaka powers up, his hatred forming spiritual tendrils, his strength reaching unmatched levels. He stops the fight as the two women are about to kill each other, his hatred manifesting for all to see. This is such a powerful and impactful scene, I carry it with me on a nearly daily basis. Ashitaka knocks the two women out and hands Eboshi off to her people. He then leaves with the princess. One woman panics and accidentally shoots him through the chest, but he keeps walking, even using his unparalleled strength to open the village gate with a single hand when it normally takes 10 men. Ashitaka and Yakul take the princess into the mountains where Ashitaka succumbs to his wounds. As he passes out, he tells the princess that she is beautiful, which stops her and the wolves from killing him. And oh my god. The wolves can talk? Then a tribe of weird line art tiny apes with glowing red eyes come out of the hills and want to eat Ashitaka in hopes that it will restore their intelligence to that of the humans. I think it's implied here that since the forest has been cut down, their intelligence has been draining. This is also where we learn the princess's name is San, as in 3, as in third child, with the other two wolves being Ichi and Ni. San takes Ashitaka deep into the forest where she offers him to the forest spirit. She then frees Yakul and leaves Ashitaka alone as part of the ritual. The Kodama come out in mass as the sun starts to rise, their chattering growing louder as the forest spirit, an enormous transparent blue kaiju with organs visible from the outside of its liquid spectral form, appears. Jiko returns, hidden in the woods with his scouts, watching as the Nightwalker transforms into the deer god as the night turns to day. The freaky deer god appears as a chimera with deer features and a human face. The way that each footstep causes life to sprout and grow rapidly before aging into dust is so powerful and iconic. The god looks down on Ashitaka and breathes life upon him. Jiko and his men are then spotted by Okoto, the protector of a distant forest. Okoto brought his entire tribe of boar with him to take on Irontown. Meanwhile, the deer god drinks Ashitaka's blood and he is healed from the gunshot wound, his curse remaining. San helps nurse him back to health with Yakul, who chose to stay as his friend. And you know this film is good when they can have a girl mama birding beef jerky into a sleeping boy's mouth and not have it be weird. It is completely innocent and unassuming. It's a little weird. As weird as it is, it doesn't feel out of place or out of context in this film. Okoto's tribe confronts Moro's tribe and is silenced when Ashitaka tells them of what happened in Nago, Okoto eventually appearing in the flesh to confirm the story. I love that Moro is a female wolf with a distinctly male voice. I think it makes her way more mythical, and I think the English dub does lose something by switching it to a female voice. I also love how disgusting and decrepit Okoto looks. Ugh. Okoto tells Moro that their tribe grows small and stupid as the humans hunt them down. His plan is to lead the boars into one final glorious battle so devastating the humans will never forget it. He is well aware he will lose and his tribe is willing to die so that their legend lives on. As they discuss, the deer god gallops across the water. Back at Irontown, Lady Eboshi finds herself at war with a samurai tribe from earlier, who now comes in search of her iron. Jiko and his men meet up with Eboshi's team and head into Irontown. He comes with a mission from the Emperor to kill the deer god and steal its head. Eboshi has pledged to help in return for support in her war against Lord Asno and the samurai. These details most likely place the film somewhere in the late 1600s. Jiko and Eboshi prepare for their fight against the boars and their hunt for the deer god's head. It is revealed that the Emperor wants the head because he believes it will make him immortal. As the men prepare for war against the forest spirits, the women prepare for a fight against Asno's men. Ashitaka recovers with San under the watch of Moro, who curses Ashitaka and the humans and tells him to leave in the morning. I love Moro in this scene. She is so protective and menacing, while at the same time feeling divine and never coming across as a savage. Ashitaka is unaffected by her threats and just wants peace and harmony with nature. The scenery of the cliff paired with the glowing eyes of the animal in this film combined to create the inspiration for one of the most beautiful moments in Kong Skull Island. The way the deer god is the god of the forest, while the other gods like Moro and Okoto are the gods of their own domain, was a similar inspiration for Kong to be the god of the island, while the other Mutos, is that what we're calling them, super species, were the gods of their own domain. Moro explains that she adopted San when a group of people she was chasing threw a baby down in their path. She saved the baby and raised it as her own cursed child. This scene is the best example for another one of my favorite traits in this movie. The animals can communicate verbally, but their mouths don't move as if they're speaking. It adds a mythical quality to them and saves them from seeming childish, like something you'd see in a Disney movie. But at the same time, they're still very expressive. Moro's laugh here is very sinister and cruel to Ashitaka, who is really the only person fighting for life rather than for nature or humanity. As the night goes on, Ashitaka and San comfort each other, and even though it would be a really easy story choice for a romance between the two to develop, that never happens. The next morning, war breaks out. Ashitaka is led out of the woods by one of Moro's children. He gives him the jewel dagger as a gift to San and then heads out into Irontown. Meanwhile, San and the boar prepare for the war against the humans. Moro tries to give San a way out, telling her that she actually can have a life with Ashitaka. I love this little bit of character development because it shows she really truthfully cares for her daughter, and even though she despises the humans, she is willing to trust Ashitaka that much. But instead, the princess insists on joining the boar's charge into battle. Interestingly, the boar don't speak during the battle, almost as if they have grown savage as the forest has died. By the time Ashitaka makes it to Irontown, it's already under siege by the samurai. Ashitaka rides off to get help from Lady Eboshi, who is on the way to kill the deer god, when he is ambushed by samurai who shoot Yakul. And let me tell you, the horror I felt when I saw that, my heart shattered. My boy shot? That was gonna break me. Ashitaka has had enough. Giving into his hate, he wipes out the samurai in brutal fashion. The curse spreads on his arm rapidly. Luckily, Yakul is alright. The wounded elk joins Ashitaka as he arrives at the aftermath of the war against the boars. This isn't a film about carnage or bloodshed. There are battles being depicted, but we're never meant to revel in them and enjoy the chaos. We're not meant to root for the slaughter of either side. I think that's Miyazaki's strength. So the film chooses to only reveal in quick flashbacks that Eboshi and Jiko sent the men of Irontown into battle against the boars as a trap for the boars. They then dropped bombs from above on everyone, killing all of them. The men of Irontown rally behind Ashitaka, fighting off Jiko's men and helping Ashitaka and Ichi escape. Eboshi and Jiko hunt San and Okoto as they go to the deer god's pond. Both are suffering greatly from their wounds. They are attacked by apes and then by Jiko's scouts wearing the skins of the dead boars. The blinded Okoto is unable to see the horrors and mistakes them for his own army rising from the dead. The whole scene is really freaky and gross. The scouts attack, provoking Okoto, causing him to mutate into a demon, his curse trapping San. Ashitaka warns Eboshi about Irontown and tells them to leave the deer god in peace, but they refuse and continue their advance. Everyone converges at the deer god's lake. Moro's tribe attacks the scouts and Ashitaka tries to rescue San from Okoto's curse. Moro uses the last of her strength to save San. The deer god appears to Okoto and takes a bullet to the neck by Eboshi, but goes on. The god then grants Okoto what he needs: death. In a brief moment, it almost seems like Jiko gets it and wants to leave them in peace. Ashitaka helps San escape Okoto's curse, and the deer god begins to transform into the forest spirit as day turns to night. During the transitional period, it is weakened just enough for Eboshi to shoot its head off. The Nightwalker does not go down easily, instead transforming into a mindless god of death that curses anything it touches. The vile liquid destroys the forest and ends all the life around it, including the Kodama of the forest. It then melts Moro's head off. Jiko grabs the deer's head and takes off sprinting as Moro's head snaps off Oboshi's arm. Ashitaka comforts San as the Nightwalker takes its new form. They then head after Jiko in search of the spirit's head. The Nightwalker spreads across the sky, reaching down into the forest with hundreds of hands in search of its head, killing everything it touches. An amazing synth score kicks in as the death sludge destroys Irontown and all the residents retreat to the lake. Jiko fights Ashitaka and San over the head, time running out. If they don't get the head back to the deer god before the sun finishes rising, it will vanish forever, leaving its curse behind. Jiko finally agrees and lets Ashitaka and San offer the head to the god just as the sun rises. In a brilliant instant, the god accepts its head as Ashitaka and San are being melted by its curse, but it's too late. The Nightwalker dies and explodes into the air, taking its curse with it. restoring life to the area. Okay, let's get this straight. So the battle's coming to an end. Peace needs to be restored to the land. Ashitaka, our prince, has been poisoned since the start of the movie with a curse that is gonna kill him. Now, at the very end, in order to restore peace to the land, he has to embrace the full impact of this curse that spreads across his whole body. He's gonna sacrifice himself, and then the golden god surrounds him in its nice warm liquid, and he doesn't die. That was the spoiler that I got my freshman year of college. Even San walks away from that. Both of them get dumped on by the curse and then they walk away from it? What movie was that guy talking about? Because it clearly wasn't Princess Mononoke. I mean, some of the details he got were right, sure, but the character does not die. What happened? Where was the disconnect? The day is saved, life finds a way, and the forests regrow. But they are not the forests of old. The ancient gods are dead, and the animals of the forest are destined to lose their intelligence. In a way, this film serves as a creation story, an origin story for modern nature and the world we have today. It is absolutely beautiful and bittersweet. Ashitaka and San go their separate ways, as she chooses to live in the woods and Ashitaka pledges to live in Irontown. But he does promise to visit her. Lady Eboshi then realizes that Ashitaka was right, and the film comes to a quiet close with a single Kodama standing alone in the forest. What an absolute triumph of a movie. God, this is so good. This film was a massive hit upon its release in Japan and went on to have an incredibly well-made dub produced by Miramax that was treated very seriously and given a large release in 1999. The film has gone on to be one of the most influential animated movies in its generation. Its influences can be felt all over the place in the things we love here on this channel, from Kong Skull Island to Godzilla Singular Point. This film really does check all the boxes for me. It's got an incredible story with amazing characters and a fully realized world. It has fantastic imagination and does a wonderful job blending mythology, history, and fantasy into one package. The voice acting is top-notch, the sound design is superb, and the action is intense and electric. The visuals are stunning, complemented by both an impressive art style and top-notch animation. And the score is perfection. It reminds me a lot of my favorite soundtracks, all rolled into one. I hear moments that make me think of King Kong 1933, Godzilla Raids Again, and Godzilla Singular Point, among others. The title theme, The Legend of Ashitaka, is one of the best ever written. I think if I had one complaint about this movie, it would be that I wasn't exactly satisfied with Lady Eboshi just getting away with it at the end. She kills the god of nature, and yet she just gets to sit there and go, maybe Ashitaka was right after all. Something about that just never sat right with me. I would have liked her to get a little more punishment than just her arm getting snapped off. Or maybe I just would have liked to see a little more of her redemption. But one thing I absolutely love is that no characters in this movie, whether it be Jiko, Ashitaka, Okoto, or even Lady Eboshi, are either all good or all bad. They all make decisions that are best for them. And all of those decisions might be best for others too. Jiko is a really great guy when we meet him, but he goes on to be one of our primary antagonists. And Lady Eboshi is doing incredibly noble things, but by bad means. Princess Mononoke is all around one of the best movies I have ever seen, and I am so thankful I watched it. I carry it with me constantly. I worked a maintenance job outdoor over the summers, and I would often listen to the music from this film to remind me to appreciate the nature I was in. And among all the rich themes in this movie, from the messages about wealth, man versus nature, the way we treat each other, and the way that no one is ever really all good or all bad, the thing that stuck with me the most was Ashitaka himself, a prince who was forced to abandon his people and go off by himself, cursed due to the acts of others, a man who is constantly forced up against opposition from all sides and yet never backs down once from doing the right thing. Ashitaka's goal of seeing with eyes unclouded has helped me a lot lately. I've had some confrontations lately that were not quite pleasant, and I normally would have approached these with a stronger sense of rage and justice, but I would consciously remind myself to stay level-headed and see with eyes unclouded, and I would say things all turned out for the better because of it. I would like to give a special thank you to Acno Goji for finally getting me to watch this movie. I am so thankful I did. Huge thank you to Acno Goji. I mean, for real, man. Recommending one of my favorite movies I've ever seen. This one, I love. Also, him being incredibly patient with me through the making of process, thank you. To me, Princess Mononoke is about as perfect as a film can get, and I'm very happy to give this one a 10 out of 10. Thank you all for watching. I want to give a huge thank you to my patrons on Patreon, especially Agno Goji, who recommended today's video. If you want to support the Patreon and get early access to content, access to the Discord community, and the ability to recommend videos like this one, please check it out using the link in the description below. Again, Merry Christmas for those of you who celebrate, Happy Holidays to those of you who don't, and Happy Day to those of you who watch this any other day but Christmas. Come back next Christmas. Thank you so much, guys. I'll see you guys next time in the next one. D-Man, out.